It's a popular school. Tiffany, you get your pool in?
Almost.
No water in it yet?
Yes, there is.
Yeah,
I
you
took
did.
a picture the other day and
Good,
it
how are
was,
you?
Good, thanks. It looked like it was fresher than that, but I had a better picture.
So,
The other one was for the concrete, I think, the end of the week.
yay.
So,
You guys were hopping when I went in there the other day. It was so busy.
no, right now.
That's good.
Yeah, it is. It's just, it's a different time. It's a different time. Oh, yeah.
Hello.
Good. Good. Yeah. Real.
Hey.
Hello,
Okay,
hello.
how are you?
I see what Mr. Sklinski's got a good mind.
Yeah.
Miss Sally, how are you?
There's some Burberry, man.
I'm good.
Pretty
Thank you.
cool. Is this some Burberry?
All right, it is 5:30 and I will call this special called board meeting to order. If you guys would please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, everyone. First on the agenda, Mr. Carter had asked that the recognition of personnel actions, attachment 1 and 2, be entered into the agenda. No board action needs to be taken on those two attachments. Number 2, reports and recommended action. Letter A, request for authorization to enter into a contract with Woodall Companies LLC for the Hendron Lone Oak Elementary School roof replacement project. Mr. Jackson.
Yes, good. Last board meeting, we brought to you the numbers from the bidders for the re-roof project at Hendron Lone Oak Elementary. And Woodall Company was our apparent low bidder. And we're asking for your permission to enter a contract with them to proceed with that work. Holly King with Sherman Carter Barnhart has reviewed them as a company, and they're more than comfortable, had a really good price. So we're asking permission to enter a contract and send that up to KDE.
Would you mind going over those totals just to,
Yeah.
for the record, so we can get that out there, please? Thank you.
Do you want the bids numbers?
No, just the Woodall,
The Woodall
the bid-
number?
yes, sir.
The Woodall's bid price was $189,830. That's their construction price. Now, we will have AE fees, contingency, advertising, printing, that type of stuff will be what shows up on the BG1, but that's their actual construction price.
Thank you.
And in that price, a line item for deck replacing, because they walked around on the roof, but with it being a shingle roof, you really don't know what the deck looks like until you tear the shingles off. So Ms. King had them put in there a unit price for if they find a piece of decking that's bad, to replace it. So that is a possibility that there may be a change order or two, hopefully really small, if they find some bad decking. But since you can't see it, you can't really say how much at this time.
If that, you just make sure that Mr. Carter knows
Oh,
that, and then make
absolutely.
sure
It'll be a
that all
change
board
order.
members know exactly
Yeah.
what's going on.
will probably happen is if they're going, and it's a small, we're not talking big dollars. It's a smaller number, but when they find a piece, I'll for sure let Mr. Carter know, but we can't wait till the next board meeting for a change order for you guys to approve for a piece of plywood. So we'll probably continue, but Mr. Carter will definitely know when we find any, if we do. I hope we don't, but if we do.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Jackson? What's the superintendent's recommendation?
Superintendent recommends entering into a contract with Woodall Companies LLC for Hendron Lone Oak Elementary School roof replacement project.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do I have a motion?
Motion made.
Motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor by aye? Aye. Any opposed? Motion is passed. Letter B, request approval for Hendron Lone Oak Elementary School roof replacement BG1 document.
The BG1 is the revised BG1. You guys had previously approved a BG1 for the project earlier on. This one reflects the contractor's price, plus we increased the contingency to 20% just in case, because the bid price was quite a bit lower than what the original BG1 was. In order to not shrink that contingency down so much that it may be an issue, we increased that to 20%, just for possibility to cover it, because it's easier to have it and then at the end move it to another project than to go to KDE again and revise it again to ask for more money. So that's why the contingency increased to 20%.
Anybody have any questions for Mr.? What's the superintendent's recommendation?
Superintendent recommends approving the revised Hendron Lone Oak Elementary School replacement BG1 documents for submittal to the Division of Facilities Management.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion and second. All in favor by aye? Aye. Any opposed? Motion is passed. Letter C, request for permission to approve advertising for bids for the proposed Reland Intermediate, Reland Middle School Band and Choir Building re-roof project for submittal to KDE.
Long title. But that is, last board meeting, you guys approved entering into a contract with Peck Flannery, Green and Warren to do the design on that project. This is just kind of getting ahead a step. Whenever Paul is ready and everything's submitted, we already have permission to go out to bid when KDE says we can, so there's not a delay on waiting on a board meeting date to ask for permission. So this is, it'll be a little ways off before we bid it, hopefully not that long, but this gets that step out of the way so that we can whenever KDE says it's approved.
Questions for Mr. Jackson? Superintendent's recommendation.
Superintendent recommends permission to be granted to advertise for bids for the proposed Reland Intermediate, Reland Middle School Band and Choir Building re-roof project.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do I have a motion?
Motion made.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor by aye?
Aye.
Motion is passed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Next, number 3, superintendent first year capstone project. Mr. Carter.
All right, for the purpose of being able to be on video and doing virtual, I will probably just stand in one spot so we can have the microphone. That is not the practice that I endorse for teaching. I do believe in proximity and circulation, but I apologize up front. So virtual learning and virtual meetings are something new for all of us, and this will be one of those examples. So I guess I will be modeling virtual teaching. First, I'd just like to say thank you all for the opportunity. And one of the things that we took on this year was talking about being McCracken proud. And that has kind of been a hashtag that we have utilized. One of the biggest things that I want to continue to promote is we have a lot to be proud of. We have a lot of great people, a lot of great things, and unbelievable students. And sometimes when you're in the middle of something, you don't appreciate what you really have until you go away and then come back. So we want to make sure that we talk about being McCracken proud for years to come. But, in going through this, to do this job, there's some people I need to thank up front. The first is most definitely my family. My daughter and my wife, both very supportive, and they understand sometimes when I have comments or frustration or red ears at home that they just kind of remove themselves from it and say tomorrow will be better. But they're very supportive. Again, having a daughter that has 2 educators, 2 administrators. When I was a DPP, she knew that she had to go to school for at least half a day for half a day ADA, which was 93 minutes. And she would know not to call me before that 93-minute threshold was passed because she knew there wasn't going to be a response. And coincidentally, my wife and I both had very similar jobs. Both of us were at one point both DACs, at one point both supervisors of instruction, and at one point both HR directors in different districts that would compete for the same people. At that time, she was a higher paying district. She can no longer say that. And I can say, well, you know what? People like to be McCracken proud. I'd like to thank you all. You all, gave me an opportunity just over a year ago. When I first sat down at dinner with you all, it was a very long evening. I don't know if you all remember, but that was a 4-hour interview that I will never forget. But it laid a foundation for us to grow and to go and to get to one another. And I honestly felt that after that evening, we already had a pretty good understanding of each other and what we needed to do and where we were going to go. And I just really want to thank each one of you all individually for taking the time, putting the faith in me, and as I say, having brutal, honest conversations with me when you feel you need to have them with me. And that's what it takes to grow something that is great to be even better. And that's where we're at. Our staff, I cannot say enough, given everything that we have endured, the support of the staff and the love of our staff for our kids, it's second to none. When we talk about misfortune happening in one of our areas in our communities or our schools, I mean, the rallying of it. When March 13th came as a day that I don't think anybody really expected, they rallied in our community. And through all of that, I really expected my phone to blow up with complaints and issues. And there was one complaint that made it to me, and it was one I never imagined, and that was we were communicating too much, that we were overwhelming. And at the time, I didn't understand that. However, given the weekly superintendent commissioner webcast that we have and the continuing updates of COVID-19, I kind of understand what parents and staff were saying at that time when you have multiple levels sending information out. But, the staff support and the feedback, and honestly, sometimes some of that has not always been positive, but it's been honest. And that's critical to accept that and not take it personal. And that's something people say, and it's difficult sometimes not to take things personally. But you got to take a step back and see where it's coming from initially. KASA, I've been an advocate, a member for probably over 15 years now of KASA. They're the ones responsible for kind of guiding me through this first year. My superintendent mentor, Mr. Casey Allen, superintendent of Ballard County, has been instrumental. And Casey and I have known each other a long time. We have, I guess, different memories of middle school football games against each other, but we did coach against each other. Dr. Fred Carter, I've known him a long time. He's my executive coach. There is no relation, despite that his son and my daughter, with Miss Burkeen's daughter, are actually all sophomores at U of L. And his son and my daughter actually went to Moorhead, to GSP together, It was kind of funny because there's a dollar store right beside where they had the orientation. I'll share this. And they get on, they say, anybody parked in the dollar store parking lot needs to move or you will be towed. So as a good husband, I get up and I go to move the vehicle. And as I'm walking out, I see another good husband, Dr. Carter, going to move his vehicle. So just a kind of coincidence. Nanette Johnson, she was a superintendent in Hardin County Schools. She is the LPI coach. If you remember that, that was the survey that you all took along with about 40 other people to kind of give feedback on how I was doing at the midpoint. And that was very important information for me to reflect upon on what I perceived was going well compared to what the administrators and support staff and you all perceived was going. Dr. Jan Lance, she was superintendent at Nelson County. She is very persistent. She is the one who's responsible for the capstone and evidence. And, you know, as the year goes along, we have to put so many artifacts in a folder. And if you were probably about 10 or 15 minutes past the deadline, somehow you got this nice, encouraging email to get it done. And then Dr. Rhonda Caldwell, she is the executive director of KASA. And again, I've had the pleasure of working with Dr. Caldwell on multiple levels, one as a former district and building administrator, but most recently as an officer of KASA. And I'll talk through that a little bit more through the capstone. Early on September 19th board meeting, if you all remember, you all approved a professional growth plan for me, and it focused on two of the 7 standards, strategic leadership and instructional leadership. Many of those items were addressed, early on with the 30, 60, 90 plan. Emails sharing happenings of the week with you all. Developing needs assessments for all schools. That was one thing. If we're going to grow, and if people are going to come ask for things, they have to show that there's a need for those, and it not be a knee-jerk reaction of, oh yeah, we'll do this, and not have a true plan in place. And then we completed some book studies with district leadership. There were 2 of them that we did, the 5 dysfunctions of a team, and taking conversations from difficult to doable. The district leadership did both of those, and then we did conversation from difficult to doable with our building administration, which is something that, again, I will allude to a little bit later in one of the standards. We had district monthly leadership meetings until Corona season set in, and we have moved those. Every Tuesday at 8:30, we have a district-wide, and when I say district-wide, I mean building principal meeting. Sometimes it's just to touch in, hey, how's it going? Others is to share information back and forth. We did implement instructional walkthroughs with the district administration team. That was more of an introductory phase this year. We hit every building twice, and we've adjusted the tool, and we'll continue to grow that process. And as we do that is a tool for improvement, not a tool for evaluation. And that's something that we will continue to stress. And teachers are creatures of habit, and if an administrator comes in their room, they naturally assume that it is for an evaluative purpose. And while it is, we're about improving instruction, improving the lives of our kids more so than a gotcha mentality. And we're going to continue to work through that. Work with the superintendent and instructional directors to identify characteristics of a graduate, which is something we call a profile of a graduate, which we have even changed more so and more direct. In that process was very enlightening in what teachers felt was important, what parents felt, and what the community felt were important traits and qualities of a graduate. And one thing that did not come up was how well somebody could solve quadratic equations or mixed chemicals or anything like that, but it was more true characteristics and what we're calling the true north of a McCracken graduate. And then opportunity to meet with community groups, business leaders, and again, actively involved with multiple groups. And again, everything is about community. And we play a major role in community. We are the cornerstone, in my belief, of any community. So standard one is strategic leadership, which superintendent creates conditions that result strategically re-imaging the district's vision, missions, and goals to ensure that each student graduates from high school is globally competitive in post-secondary education and/or the workforce and is prepared for life in the 21st century. The superintendent creates a community of inquiry that challenges the community to continually repurpose itself by building on the district's core values and beliefs about the preferred future and then developing a vision. The one thing that is phenomenal about McCracken County is as good as we are, it's not good enough. You know, when you have a 21.5 ACT average and your average student is college and career ready already, and that's not good enough, I mean, that, to me, that lights a fire. That's exciting. For some, say, well, that's not bad. Well, you're right, it's not bad, but it can be better, and that's what we're going to do. Just a couple of things that we have done. We had several new administrators this year at McCracken County High School. So we went out and visited WKCTC and the Culinary Arts Program. It's good. I think the one we have at our high school is just as good, if not better. But again, it's a partnership, and we have students that go there to earn college degrees. This is Polar Express, and I'll say this is something I've always enjoyed doing. I will say I appreciate the board letting me grow a beard so I could have a really nice, real mustache to be the conductor for a couple of days and go read to all the kindergarten classes, the Polar Express. And the little girl there was, I mean, she was excited. It was fun to be able to do that. These two items right here, I have joined the Rotary and Kiwanis, and it's been enjoyable to get the opportunity to share information with them on what's going on in McCracken County Schools. It's funny when, you know, we have this lens that, hey, everybody understands what's going on, but when you get there and they start asking some of the questions, they really don't know what all we have. So, you know, we're going to continue to market and share the great things that we do. And that includes, and Mr. Seglinski and I have had conversation about getting students to come to board meetings to recognize them for their accomplishments. You know, we had the not just a district, but the regional CTE Student of the Year for his welding abilities. You know, we've got a lot of great things going on. We have one of the highest CTE participation rates in the state. And I mean, that's phenomenal that we have that. And we're still looking to add other programs. Mr. Hauser and I have discussed, and we're looking at trying to get a criminal justice pathway implemented at the high school as well to go along. Opening day, you all were there. I thought it was a great opening day for all of our students. We got a lot of good feedback. I thought it was for the guy that gave the closing speech more than the magician and the inspirational speaker. But John did a good job. But this is one of the big things that we have done, and it's the true north of a McCracken graduate. And when this started, we kept talking about a profile of a graduate, and we were getting fixated on it. But, you know, Mr. Seglinski took this on, and we want it to be more than that. And, you know, a person's true north is what they really are, what they're really about. And so we kind of honed those type of things down to a strong work ethic, flexibility and adaptability, critical thinking, effective communication, and emotional intelligence. And all of this stuff was really kind of building and getting in place prior to March 13th. Since that time, all of those skills and those traits are indicative of what it's going to take as we move forward, you know, and through COVID and years to come. You know, I was telling administrators and people today that I don't know if we'll ever go back to March 12th, how things were. There will always be, as much as we might, in the days of old, and it's funny that we say March 12th is days of old, we may not get back there. But Roy Rogers once said, it's never as good as it used to be, and it never was. So I think, you know, we got to take that type of mindset and finding ways to make sure we address all of these needs of our students as we come back to school and plan for the 2021 school year. Instructional leadership. Superintendent supports and builds a system committed to shared values and beliefs, focused on teaching and learning, where performance gaps are systematically eliminated over time, and each student graduates from high school, college, and career ready. Again, a lot of those things were already in place, but we still have to improve upon those. So, we had PLCs at our schools. This was an opportunity to be at Lone Oak Middle School with Mr. Elliott and his team as they broke down, data. This was communication back and forth from Ms. Humphrey. After we did a visit, I had the opportunity to visit her classroom and just kind of shared with her what I observed and how much I enjoyed being in her classroom and truly seeing what we talk about when we say passion and love for students. Being involved in the community is important. This was a public forum by the Pritchard Committee that shared information, and it was very, very good information for us to look at how we were performing with the state and also with neighboring districts, and it was remarkable how well we were doing. Reedland Elementary School was one of 2 schools in the state of Kentucky to receive national recognition Title I conference, and invited them down to Atlanta to receive their recognition and their award. One of my early events, we actually had a new teacher orientation where I got to meet all of our new staff and share with them and try to just talk about what it means to be McCracken proud and how we're going to continue to move this great district forward. Again, another PLC. This one's at Heath Middle School, which Melanie and Mr. Jarvis was sharing test scores and data and looking at how we can identify gaps. And one thing and I remember this day very well, it was amazing how close our 3 middle schools all performed with one another. It was just very, very reassuring, enlightening. Here's another one of our visits. We took all of our high school administrators to visit WKCTC because we want to make sure that they know what's out there so they can share that with students and opportunities to move forward as well. And this right here is actually our walkthrough instrument that compiles all the data. And it's just identified areas, students engaged, students not engaged, how was technology used, was it direct instruction, and all of that after a walk is compiled to look at a holistic view of the school. And so when we get done, if I'm in a teacher's classroom, how this will work is I will complete the observation, they'll send it to the teacher, but then holistically it's compiled and we can share that with a principal. And it goes back to that needs assessment. If principals are saying they need more technology, and then we can pull this data up and we see technology is used 5% of the time, do you really need more technology or do you need more PD and use of technology? And that is data that can be used to grow and spend money wisely. Cultural leadership. Superintendent understands and acts on the important role of a system's culture, has an exemplary performance of all schools. He works to understand the people in the district and community as well as their history and traditions as they move forward to support and achieve district goals. The superintendent must be able to improve the district culture, if needed, to align the work of adults with the district's goals of improving student learning and infusing the work with passion, meaning, and purpose. And that's where, when I talk about McCracken Proud, that will be something that, will continue to go on because of all the things that we have, and you have to have passion with it. And there are a lot of people that are passionate. A lot of people are passionate about Heath. A lot of people are passionate about Lone Oak. A lot of people are passionate about Reedland. But the one thing that is remarkable is that we were able, as 3 high school communities, to come together the way they have and support one school. And that goes back to the opportunities that you all as board members and previous boards had when they talk about one vision, endless opportunities. I mean, there's something for everybody. So first day of school, young man, it was his first day in McCracken County schools. His name was Carter. So I had the opportunity to go over to Reedland Intermediate and take this picture and tweeted it out after I talked to his mom. And Carter's my buddy. He's always got that smile on his face, and you can't help but but feel when you get the opportunity to be around those students. Really near me at school, had lunch, various schools. This was a very fun group. At first, they wouldn't say a word, and then when I decided to share some of my fries, reluctantly, they opened up, and from there, it was I knew all the problems of the world in their eyes, which I think was about a 3 square block area. John Petts, when first got here, we did not have an opening day speaker planned, and I reached out. I worked with John for several years through KASA, and looking through everything that we have been through, I was like, he's the guy that we need. And if you remember the 7 of Hearts story, and I mean, it's light, it's uplifting, but it's relevant. I mean, every day makes a difference, and you never know when those moments, those simple moments, are going to occur. So when they do, you got to capture those. One of the most enlightening things for me all year was from this tweet right here. And I was told early on that, the arts are something special in McCracken County. And I was like, well, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. And then I found out, and I didn't know this prior to that there was actually state competition for drama. And so I was like, okay. And then I found out that our drama department won the region and were performing at state, and had the opportunity to go to Louisville. And the football team was actually playing right outside Louisville on Friday night, and our drama department was performing Saturday morning at the University of Louisville, the Diviners. And wow, it's a powerful play. And what was amazing is that 2.5 hour production got pulled down to about 45 minutes, and you still got the same power from it. And the kids being able to remember and cut what lines, and I will be back. I cannot say enough about that department and the people involved, and the joy. And it was kind of funny. I also got to see a couple other schools, because I'm originally from the Eastern time zone, and I know there's a time difference. And for some reason that time I didn't adjust it, so I got there early, and I was like, well, I don't want to go bother the kids, but I didn't know why they were still sitting in the front row. I was like, and they're getting ready to go on in 5 minutes. They're really cool about this. And then it may have even been Alex, like, oh no, we still got another hour. I was like, okay, well, I got to see somebody else who is not near as good as our kids. Also, one day over the summer, I was out on my boat on the lake, and happened to be a bass fishing tournament going on, and I know, and this was early on, so no one really knew who I was, and I kind of saw the boat was going down the lake, and I knew it was our guys just by their uniform, so I kind of followed them along, and I finally had, hey, I'm the new superintendent of McCracken County, can I get a picture? And the guys were like, you want us to get our fish out? So they got their fish out to show their catch of the day. I said, I promise, what time do you all weigh in? I will not post this until after that's done. Again, I don't have a lot of experience in bass fishing, but I know quantity and size is important, so I didn't want to disrupt anything with that. Read Across America, that's me in the shark suit. When I first start reading, you could see my face, and then as I would read the story, the head would come over more and more. That was a very enjoyable day that I was able to do that. And this is one of the first group of students I met, and when I was talking about something for everybody, Hope is a young lady I'll never forget. One, because of the smile that she has, but after this meeting, I said, "Hey, tell me what's great about McCracken County." And she went into this big long speech about how there's something for everybody, and she goes, "Well, I'm in drama, and they come and support me, and I've heard this. She plays basketball, and I go support her, and she doesn't do anything, but we support her, and we all support each other, and we love each other." And for a teenager to recognize that is something special. My daughter roomed with a girl that graduated from McCracken County the previous year, and just in joking, I was like, so tell me who, what I need to change or who I need to get rid of. And, what she says, because I can't tell you who you need to get rid of, but I can tell you who you need to keep. And she said, you need to make sure you keep Miss Chapman. And I hadn't met Miss Chapman yet, but, when teenagers first think that tells you got something special. And we do. And we're going to continue to recognize how special our students are and how special our community is. And this is I had the opportunity to be the keynote speaker for the Martin Luther King essay contest this year. And this is just a few of our winners. In that involvement is critical, given the civil unrest that, we have in our nation today on top of Corona. It is important that, we show our students how important, compassion, love, acceptance really are. Human resource leadership, standard 4. Superintendent ensures district is a professional learning community with processes and systems in place that result in recruitment, induction, support, evaluation, development, and retention of a high-performing, diverse staff. And the superintendent distributed leadership to support learning and teaching plans, professional development, and engages in district leadership succession planning. I think one thing that some of the principals early on, I know probably Mr. Sklinski and Mr. Buchanan get tired of hearing me say is, well, what's their PD plan say? Do they have a PD plan? Because those are site-based functions that really need to guide the growth in areas of the school about intentional planning. Our bus drivers were unbelievable. Bus driver appreciation. This right here is a tweet about mental health. This was kind of early on when we started dealing with COVID, and the people just were not sure. Well, and mental health is critical. Our cafeteria staff, I had an opportunity to visit each of those, and there's a couple that if you go visit, they're going to make you eat. And so I would have to try to visit them, and I never could find a time when they didn't have food available to be consumed. So I've got to work on that because they are not, and they're not good for the diet because they don't give you just a small portion. They make sure it's good and they call it out. Bus driver update. Again, a remarkable group of individuals. One thing I'll say about our bus drivers and our cafeteria workers, because again, when Corona began, I charged everybody that we were going to do two things. We were going to feed students and make sure everybody has an opportunity to earn a paycheck. And at no point did I talk about the instruction side because I knew we were in good hands there. We had that because how focused everyone is on instruction, that was going to be a natural progression. But making sure students were fed was critical. And since March 16th, and actually over spring break, I'll start there. My recommendation was going to be, hey, let's just, one, not do it, or two, do a couple satellite spots. And it was our food service and our transportation department said, no, we want to continue to feed kids. And so they did. So when, we set the end of school year, I said, okay, so we're going to stop there. Well, no, we've got special food coming in on May 11th, so let's continue to do it until May 22nd. Those were two groups that were critical in that. And in doing so, we served over 500,000 meals to McCracken County because we went door to door and we had people who were willing, and I'm sure some were scared, but they did that. And then would come back and share stories of how moving it was and how appreciative. And our community was so appreciative of it that, they really showed how much it really means. And it gave you a different perspective on, one, some of our students' situations, and two, the students' true appreciation of the adults that are there to help them. Sometimes that's not shown the way that you would expect it to be, but through all of this, it has been. And then the Superintendent Advisory Group, we call it SAG. Early on, I'll be honest, it was kind of just a complaint department. Towards the backside, we made it more, they have to bring something that's going on good in their schools to share those with one another, simply because, that they can just send a complaint in an email, but, we're not going to focus on the negative all the time. Managerial leadership. Superintendent ensures the district has processes and systems in place for budgeting, staffing, problem solving, communicating expectations, and scheduling that organize the work of the district and give priority to student learning and safety. The superintendent must solicit resources, both operating and capital, monitor their use, and assure the inclusion of all stakeholders in decisions about resources so as to meet the 21st century needs of the district. So as we kind of continue to go through, we had our bus garage that was delayed 6 months due to soil and water and rain, which it is completed. This was a tweet. This was early on, 23,000 meals. I think that was the first week, and then it just grew from there. I think we had a high of almost 7,000 meals 1 week. This is a picture of the yard signs that we purchased for all of our seniors, and we gave out for all of them this year as part of our graduation. CSI, a local company, came out and was willing, even though we're a CEP district, took care of all previous debts of nearly $50,000 and wiped off all student previous charged lunches. Again, an example of the partners and the belief our community has in us. After we began with COVID-19, this is one of our update progress meetings for Lone Oak Middle School. Not quite the same effect as when you're out there near on the construction site to do that. Something I started this year, we called it Breakfast with the Superintendent. It was always the Thursday mornings of board meetings, and pretty much what it was, there were each of our schools would send a parent representative. I would kind of share out information related to the district, how we're performing, how things are going, and then just have some general conversation and feedback from a parent perspective on the good, the bad going on. And again, that was another one of those opportunities. It was amazing how much positive was shared. And then even some constructive feedback was provided that we could go back and grow off of. So again, something that will definitely continue because there was great information gleaned from that. This was a Zoom meeting we had with seniors discussing the end of year activities on how we need to move forward prior to our virtual graduation, timelines. It was a rough meeting, to be honest, to have that, but it was amazing how mature those student representatives were in the issues they were facing, and how appreciative they were of it. And this was early in the year, Pirates Against Cancer, the balloon release. Again, remarkable and a prime example, again, of community supporting schools and efforts there. Collaborative leadership. Superintendent, in concert with local Board of Education, design structures and processes that result in broad community engagement with support and for ownership of the district vision, acknowledging that strong schools build strong communities. The superintendent proactively creates, with school and district staff, opportunities for parents, community members, government leaders, and business representatives to participate with their investments or resources for assistance and goodwill. And there was a number of opportunities there. The kindness walk, again, happens every August. And at first I was like, well, I wonder how many people are going to show up, and go out there. And there were over 800, participants from across the community. And again, another one of those events that we really need right now. Veterans Day planning. I had the opportunity to meet, with various community members to talk about the Veterans Day parade and what we can do to grow that and work in unison with that. Congressman James Comer came and did a visit, and I was invited to participate with his visit. And an opportunity to share information with him on the needs of McCracken County and to get his perspective. ATC planning meeting, this was early on prior to them getting a full-time principal, just talking about programs and the fact that, we have a majority of those seats are our seats. And that's one of those prime examples where I got very valuable feedback. Ms. Walker, shared with me information that, we were entitled to more of those seats than I expected. And that's just a prime example of, sharing relevant information. I had the opportunity to work with the Leadership Paducah class of number 33 on their tour of the high school with our student ambassadors. And then this was another very special moment with Reedland Intermediate School as the students, I got to help them deliver at the Baptist Health Continue Care. Again, starting at an early age of giving to others. And those qualities and traits become intrinsic when you start. And to see the students wanting to run down the hallway to make sure they would give gifts to everybody that they could. Influential leadership. Superintendent promotes success of learning and teaching by understanding, responding to, and influencing the larger political, social, economic, ethical, and cultural context from the knowledge. Superintendent works with the Board of Education to define mutual expectations, policies, and goals to ensure academic success for all students. Again, as a member of KASA, we have executive board meetings, which we kind of, work. And this is one of those that we were talking about legislative policies and updates that impact education. Part of the KASA hotline, I'm still serving as the immediate past president, so heavily involved with, communication with state and local officials. Back in the fall, WKEC, the regional cohort, we had a legislative forum which we all came together to talk about educational needs and funding as our legislators working. I had the opportunity to go to Frankfurt and meet with Representative Rudy and Representatives Freeland and Heath actually in their offices. And we would also have some local meetings, with, Senator Carroll and Representative Bridges as well. So, met with all of them more times than not in their offices or on their territory in a way that you can build those relationships for when you have to have some of those difficult conversations where it's just natural disagreement on beliefs. But those disagreements are fine when it's for the common good and the growth of not only McCracken County, but the Commonwealth. This is Renee Shaw. You all may not know who she is, but she is a TV personality in KET. She's a major facilitator. Had the opportunity while I went to Fancy Farm to participate and eat some good barbecue. I ran into her and had the opportunity to speak to her for a few minutes about how the debates were going to go, and very enlightening opportunity. I did have an opportunity to work with the Workforce and Education Department. I had a meeting where we talk about apprenticeship opportunities and growing and seeing how those would move. And then again, the COVID-19 meal delivery. It was awesome to be able to participate, whether it be delivering the meals, and this was early on, or prepare the meals like what we did a few times as well. So that's the current 7 standards for the past, and that's where it's at. So in moving forward, we have some goals and objectives that I will continue to discuss with you all and probably put towards a professional growth plan for next year. So the one thing that we're going to look at trying to do is implement one-to-one Chromebooks at our 3 middle schools. We've already kind of got that in motion, and we're going to continue on how that's going to roll out and the type of support that it will take to make sure that those function and it is a smooth transition. And with that being said, we also want to increase the number of Chromebooks at all of our elementary schools. People sometimes say that young children cannot use technology. Well, if you give it to them, they'll figure it out, and they'll figure it out quicker than we will. So we want to make sure that we can start that early on. Big project right now is the completion of Lone Oak Middle School, which is slated for, I believe, March of next year, early March, late February. So it's, believe it or not, it's on track despite all the rain, and they're very active out there. We have to finalize plans for Lone Oak Intermediate. There's conversation with the feasibility study is complete. Now it's about the analysis of the pros and cons and having that conversation with, building principal and you all are moving forward. Also to implement a comprehensive instructional walks. And this comes back, impact or the traditional TAIL surveys information was released yesterday. And we had a couple of areas that we can improve upon. And coincidentally, one of those was feedback and coaching. So it validates, what I was trying to discuss early on about, hey, we need to implement instructional walks, because the teachers are saying they want more feedback and coaching. The other piece of that, they also said that they needed professional learning opportunities. So one of the ideas that Mr. Zaglinski and I talked about, and he brought it forward, was allowing teachers the opportunity to become specialists in certain areas and their PD being focused on those. And again, coincidentally, this is the type of information we get back from a survey that fits right into what we need to do to continue to grow, because it's not about status quo. It's about getting better. So,
My name is Jody McIntosh, and I have been in McCracken County my entire life. I began my school career in Lone Oak Elementary, moved on to Lone Oak Middle School, and then finished up at Lone Oak High School. I always knew from the time that I had the one particular teacher in 4th grade at Lone Oak Elementary, I knew I wanted to come back to be an elementary school teacher. I currently teach at Hendron Lone Oak in kindergarten. I knew I wanted to be in McCracken County Schools so that I could eventually raise a family. We knew we wanted our children to be raised in this community, and we wanted them to have the amazing education that McCracken County Schools offers. I always knew I wanted elementary students. They are absolutely the best to go to work to each and every day. When I know that they understand how much I care about them, I know that they're ready to hear what I have to teach them in a much more open and an excited way. The moment they step in the door, I hope and pray they feel that I love them. They know I'm in it. I am McCracken proud.
so that was just one of the, we had several small vignettes like that made to talk about, what it means to be McCracken proud. And, she's one of those prime examples of what it's all about, had a desire to come back home to make a difference. And we have a school system full of people who love it. So I just want to say thank you and make sure to stay McCracken proud. Thank you. Do you have anything you would like to say? You can, either way.
I've known Steve Carter since he was a football coach at Liberty County, and actually a good guy before me. And when I started working many years ago with the Superintendent of Liberty County, I talked to Steve and said, you need to consider becoming superintendent. Kind of planted the seed every time I see him, we talk about it, have you applied anywhere, what have you done, and that kind of thing. But it's always been easy to see that he's a leader. And he's very competitive. You probably haven't noticed that yet, but he doesn't want to be second in anything. He believes in fairness, and he believes in hard work, and he believes in loving what you do. He's got a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm. You can see from the pictures there, he dresses up for sharp, he dresses up for other characters as well throughout the school year. That's great. And I think it's been a really unusual year because my first visit here, we're talking about honestly talking about culture. Something about getting everybody pulled together and go the same direction and all that. And I can tell you here a few months later, even though we're going through COVID-19, I think I see that. I see that in faith. I see a district that is really working together and want to do things to happen. It's exciting to watch what's taking place here. It makes me want to bring my 12-year-old down here and enroll in school.
Come on, we've got reciprocal agreements.
But, for Steve, I spent 17 days with me and training this year, and next year, 4 days I spent here, city quarter. And, so next year, we'll have almost a full month for us to go to this work here instead of being in Frankfurt. The ILP team met earlier, and that's with the board chair, Dr. Casey, who is his mentor, and Seth, and we all signed off on the official forms that go to KBE, which signified his successful completion of all the phases of music training. That released the superintendent certification, and we'll actually give this certificate this summer at the end of July, where you can move Louisville for the KSA conference. Hopefully by that time, the person will be checking their members to a new education group, leadership and youth. So that's what we're trying to hold on to. But it's been a really good year. I think he's done a phenomenal job so far from my perspective. All I'd say to you, and I say this in a time limit, is keep his feet to the fire. You know, don't hesitate to encourage him. If you see something that's maybe going south a little bit, the communication is key to everything. And the key to school, good school district, obviously, is who the board and the superintendent, who the superintendent surrounds himself with. But it's also key to how the board and the superintendent relate to each other. And I'm not, I sense I'm preaching to the choir. I'm not sharing something that I already know. So you selected well. You have a person whose heart is here and who wants the best for McCracken County. And I say the future's really bright. So I look forward. I told him I'm going to come back in a year or two and look at the facilities particularly, because I've seen the construction going on this year, around these things. I want to see it completed. And when he goes to meetings with other superintendents, like when we met with the other 4 or 8 folks, when he talks about McCracken County, ears are up, everybody's listening, because you guys have so much to be proud of. Wow, high school year, oh, Moses, it's amazing. And the opportunities for kids. And I sense that you're not just resting on your laurels. What's the benefit of any district to get up and quote the statistics in terms of ACT scores and what your opportunities are for kids to say, yes, but we're not resting on our laurels. We're not satisfied with that. We're going to take it up to another level. So I think that helps well for this district, for kids, particularly for kids.
Basically, Al, I'm a superintendent in Valley County and serve as a mentor. And I guess my notes, I started off by thinking, my job as a mentor is so easy when there's a really good hire, and this was a really good hire. So the job of mentor was actually pretty easy. I had to be a listening ear, maybe from time to time give advice, but it was much more of a collegial relationship than it was ever me mentoring him. Some of the things that I wrote down, I wasn't aware I had a speaking part this evening, so I tried to make some notes that I didn't go around. But one of the things I appreciate about Steve is he leads with confidence. That certainly is something that can't be undervalued, that idea of being confident in what you do. I wrote down the word unflappable, and I'm an old English teacher, and one of the things I immediately thought was, what's the opposite of being unflappable? I guess it's being flappable. And I don't know what the definition of that is, but you know it when you see it. And you have a leader who's both confident and capable of handling himself and being unflappable under pressure. So one of the things that really jumps out at me is when you're going into a superintendent search, which you all work, and the biggest concerns of your district are probably don't make your top 5 at the end of the year. You made a great hire. So the things that were big issues aren't issues. He's focused on the right things. I started to put down here, he's focused on kids. We almost wear that out. I think the Capstone shows there's so much more that goes into the job of the superintendent. Certainly being focused on kids is important. But whether it's meeting legislators or dressing like a shark, that's a picture, by the way, I did do it. I did get the picture of the engineer, and I'll tell you that got shared amongst our superintendent group. And there's a reason why I did it, because they're not my superintendent. never got a response from Mr. Carter about that, got lots of responses from other people. So I think all this is one of the things I said upstairs, I think you have, I think you hired someone that meets all of the dispositions of being a great leader. It doesn't mean any one of us can't improve, we can get better. That he has all the dispositions of being a great superintendent. Building those relationships, both internally, you all know that I have, we're a neighbor of Ballard County's a neighbor of McCracken County, and I have lots of connections here. And I know how he is, how he's viewed by his community and by this county. And so I want you to know that you move the same way amongst the region and amongst superintendents. So here's the last thing I wrote down for you. From standard 3, your daughter's roommate said, I can't tell you what you need to change, but I can tell you who you need to keep. I can tell you who you need to keep.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Taylor?
Yes, sir. Anybody have any questions or anything for Mr. Carter? Excellent presentation, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we do need to have executive session. To go into a closed session pursuant to KRS 61.8101K, meetings specified by law to be conducted in private, which is pursuant to KRS 156.557, Section 6, for preliminary discussion for the superintendent evaluation. Do I have a motion and a second?
I'll make the motion. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor by aye? Aye. Any opposed? We are in executive session.
I've got the teacher workroom open that you can go into.
Board members need
All right, I need a motion and a second to come out of executive session.
Second.
A motion and second. All in favor by aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are out of executive session. No action was taken at this time. I need a motion and a second to adjourn.
Motion made.
Second.
A motion and second. All in favor by aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.